Thank you for taking the time to watch our on-demand video. I'm Richard Hepworth, President of Trelleborg Marine Systems, and I'll be taking this opportunity to talk to you for 15 minutes or so about the findings from our latest barometer report. Specifically, I'll be discussing the current situation that ports around the world find themselves in, what their challenges and demands are, and how they're performing in the face of these challenges. But first, I'll give you a little bit of background to the barometer report. Each year, we survey the industry, calling on the views of port owners, operators, engineering consultants and contractors to understand the critical issues that the maritime sector is facing, especially with regards to port infrastructure planning, port performance and investment. We gather and analyse these views to produce a comprehensive market report, the barometer report. We have been surveying the market in this way since 2010, so at this point, we have some good insights into the current situation, as well as an historic benchmark to compare findings to as well. In this webinar, the first in an ongoing series, I will talk you through what the latest report found, including current situation facing ports globally, how ports are currently performing, and the obstacles that facilities all over the world must overcome in order to best prepare and protect themselves for the future. It's been a tough few years, and given the global economic downturn, it's unsurprising that facilities have been taking a rather defensive approach to investment. It's understandable that port owners and operators have been working to protect facilities given the financial climate they were facing, and it's even somewhat understandable that there has been a pervasive culture in the market of prioritising upfront purchase cost ahead of value over the whole design life of a solution. But 61% of the contractors and consultants surveyed for this year's barometer report still claim that their clients are concerned by upfront purchase costs rather than taking a whole life value approach to procurement. The time has come for this mentality to shift. It cannot continue. Facilities are already feeling and will continue to feel the impact of years of underinvestment if they don't act to protect themselves now. In the second webinar in this series, my colleague Paul Welling will talk through why ports now have the opportunity to instigate that change and how they can do it in a most effective way. For now, let's get back to where we are today, with ports starting to suffer the effects of a tactical, purchase cost-led approach to procurement. The pressure of historic underinvestment is catching up, and in addition, there are now increasing and more diverse demands placed on ports. A number of factors such as increasing vessel sizes, increasing environmental regulation, and improved technology means that there's a lot for port owners and operators to take into account just to keep facilities up to date. Never mind take the opportunity to get ahead of demand. Let's take a look at these challenges one by one. Vessel sizes continue to grow, and as they do, ports need to keep up. 74% think that the need to update existing port facilities and terminals is the biggest challenge brought about by increasing vessel sizes. It's clear that infrastructure needs to evolve quickly. Already, ports are struggling to keep pace with demand. Whilst owners and operators say they feel that the industry is keeping up with the needs of increasing vessel sizes, when we drill down into the detail and quiz them specifically on the size of vessels individual ports can accommodate, it seems that ports are struggling to keep up. 65% of those responded to the survey could not accommodate the largest Maersk Triple-E class container ships, for example. And the impact of increasing vessel sizes doesn't stop there. Even if a port can accommodate the new breed of supership, 40% don't think current port infrastructure is adequate to keep up with the onward logistics demands of increased sizes and throughput. Adding to the pressure on existing terminals, a new modern facility is emerging with state-of-the-art infrastructure capable of accommodating the new breed of container ships. It's no surprise then that the report found container terminals are expected to have the largest increase in infrastructure demand over the next 5 years. Another demand that ports have to quickly adapt to is that of increasing environmental regulations. According to the results of the barometer report, following closely behind container terminals for anticipated demand in their infrastructure needs are LNG bunkering and small-scale LNG. However, a large proportion, 67% of respondents are taking a wait-and-see approach to the expected increase in LNG bunkering, which will follow the implementation of the 2015 ECA regulations. Even last year, the barometer report found that the majority expected the LNG sector to enjoy the biggest demand over the next 5 years. With so many taking a wait-and-see approach, this year's research confirms the emergence of a chicken and egg situation. Ports don't want to invest in infrastructure before LNG-fueled ships are built and the ships aren't being built because there's nowhere to bunker. But the implementation of the new regulations is imminent, and lack of infrastructure must not represent a barrier. Ports must take proactive action now to upgrade facilities in time for the regulations coming into force. This proactive action will be aided greatly by the emergence of many new technologies that make life easier for port owners and operators, as well as vessel operators. As technologies continue to advance, they represent another opportunity for facilities to keep up with the demands placed upon them. However, again, the industry is suffering from being too reactive. 19% of those surveyed this year said they don't use any automated systems at their facility. That seems an extremely disappointing result and suggests that ports are not acting quickly enough to maximise the opportunities available to them. The introduction of automated monitoring and management to facilities improves efficiency and allows quick decisions to be made through real-time access to key data. Docking aid systems, for example, improve safety as the vessel comes into berth, with the data they provide allowing jetty operators, pilots and shipmasters to make early corrections to manoeuvres long before a potential incident may occur. Given the increasingly complex mooring patterns and extreme environments that vessels in the LNG sector especially are required to berth in, it is becoming commonplace and in fact expected that facilities will have the state-of-the-art equipment necessary to ensure a safe and reliable operation. Of course, there's a difference between a container terminal in the south of England where waters are relatively calm and cargo is low hazard, and an LNG berthing alongside an FLNG platform in the middle of the ocean. But the point remains, it's all relative and standards must be pulled up across all sectors. Facilities that are not using these automated tools jeopardise efficiency and safety and run the risk of becoming antiquated. They certainly won't be able to keep up with the new breed of terminal that is emerging. The port landscape is evolving quickly, with increasing and diverse demand. Larger vessel sizes and more stringent environmental regulations mean facilities need to quickly upgrade their infrastructure. And with the ports surveyed this year reporting that they need to accommodate so many varied types of traffic, further complexity is creeping into the picture. So where do the years of underinvestment, increased and varied demand, and the emergence of new technologies leave us today? Although levels have been gradually falling since the first barometer report in 2010, the vast majority of respondents, 74%, are still experiencing some level of unscheduled downtime, and any amount is costly to ports, not only in terms of lost revenue and damaged reputation, but also in terms of their relationships with shipping lines. Fender damage was the most frequently cited factor contributing to unscheduled downtime, with 20% revealing it to be the cause. So let's take fenders as a microcosm to investigate the performance of wider port infrastructure. It seems the contractor and consultant perspective on owner and operator's approach to investment rings true. Port owners and operators still aren't placing the necessary importance on whole life costs when procuring mission-critical equipment. In fact, 2/3 have upgraded their fender systems in the last 5 years. Although some may be upgrading in order to accommodate bigger vessels or as part of a wider refurbishment project, fender systems are intended to have a design life of 20 to 25 years. So the fact that so many have upgraded their fender systems so recently suggests that installed solutions aren't performing as they should be. What's more, the high incidence of fender damage and the subsequent downtime it causes is seemingly due to a lack of awareness on how to specify a true quality fender system. It seems that there is a need for more education, and it's not just for owners and operators. It's time for consultants and contractors to boost their knowledge too. Again, using the microcosm of fenders, the performance and life cycle of which vary dramatically based on the type of rubber used, and within that the compound composition of the rubber, there's a huge lack of product awareness, and that needs to be addressed urgently. For the barometer report, we surveyed contractors and consultants on the topic, and there were some shocking results. 77% of consultants and contractors don't know the correct ratio of ingredients in a superior rubber compound used in a fender system. The ingredients needed to make up a superior rubber compound should follow a pyramidal structure. Starting from the bottom of the pyramid, raw rubber should constitute the majority of the compound, 40 to 45%. Following on from raw rubber should be the reinforcing filler at 30 to 40%. Continuing to move up the pyramid, oil is the next ingredient, representing around 20% of the rubber compound. Finally, any other additives at the top of the pyramid should represent just 5 to 10% of the overall compound. If specifiers don't know this, how can they specify a true quality fender system? An understanding of rubber compound composition is critical, as it is the only way to guarantee the performance and life cycle of the fender. Additionally, there are many and varied factors that compound composition also affects, such as velocity factor, VF, and temperature factor, TF. First introduced by Piank, velocity factor and temperature factor should be applied to rubber fenders at the testing stage to accurately ascertain performance in the field under varying compression times and temperatures. Velocity factor and temperature factor should be calculated and reported on a case-by-case basis. Each is dependent on the makeup of the rubber compound, and as such, there is no standard factor that can be applied to calculate and report performance under varying velocities and temperatures. These two considerations are absolutely vital to the understanding of how a fender will perform in the field, and shockingly 50% of those surveyed don't know if suppliers apply bespoke velocity factor and temperature factor in the design of their fender systems. It's no surprise then that the overwhelming majority say it would be useful to have a system to easily test suppliers' compounds. The need is there, and it's time for suppliers to react to it, evolving offerings to provide the required education and substantiation. And that's just in relation to fenders. As an essential part of the port infrastructure, the approach that facilities take to fender specification indicates a requirement for better industry education in other product areas too. There's a need for the whole supply chain to come together to share knowledge and best practice to ensure quality is specified, installed and maintained. We have some more in-depth thoughts on this in the second webinar of this series. Supplier relationships need to get an upgrade. It's time for suppliers to work harder to inform and educate customers on the best use of their products, and not just before installation. Suppliers must also accept responsibility for their products over the entire product life cycle. To hear more about how suppliers can help to drive up standards across the industry, please check out the second webinar in this series. Because of the historic underinvestment we've talked about, there are still obstacles to be overcome, and there's no quick fix available. Facilities can't invest in the short term and boost performance in the long term. Although there are a number of factors for ports to contend with, optimism is returning, and there is an opportunity arising for those that can get ahead of demand and invest strategically through a new business model that capitalises on the experience of the whole supply chain to minimise long-term costs. Although the report reveals something of a perfect storm of challenges, there are also opportunities arising, and those that act now will prosper. For more information, join my colleague Paul Welling for the next webinar in the series.